Let me ask you a question. Why is it that one woman can disappear for a few hours and have a man desperately wondering where she is, while another woman can be gone for days and he barely notices? It's not about how much he likes you. It's not about how good your relationship is. It's about triggering his emotional brain in a way that makes your absence feel like a loss. In today's video, I'm going to share 5 specific words, yes, just 5, that when texted at the right moment, make a man miss you so intensely he can't focus on anything else. And the best part, he'll have no idea why. This isn't about manipulation. It's about understanding male psychology and using it to your advantage. See, men are wired differently than women when it comes to missing someone. While we feel connected through constant communication, they feel drawn to what's unpredictable and emotionally stimulating. And when you use these 5 words the way I'm about to teach you, his mind starts obsessing over you, even if he seemed completely fine without you before. So if you've ever felt forgotten, replaced, or left wondering if he even thinks about you when you're not around, stay with me, because after today, you'll never have to question whether you're on his mind again. Ready? Let's dive into the first secret word that flips the switch in his brain and makes him crave your presence like an addiction. Before I give you the first powerful word, you need to understand why these words actually work. Because if you don't get the psychology behind it, you might send the right words at the wrong time and completely kill their effect. Here's the truth. Most people don't realize men miss women differently than women miss men. While women tend to miss through emotional connection, men are wired to miss through curiosity and emotional tension. When those triggers are activated, a man's brain releases dopamine, the same chemical linked to craving and obsession. When you send the right 5 words, you're not just sending a text, you're activating a psychological switch in his mind. Suddenly, you're no longer just another person in his contacts. You become the mystery he needs to solve, the experience he's afraid of losing, and the woman who occupies his thoughts even when she's not around. This happens because of something called the curiosity loop. Men are naturally drawn to what feels slightly out of reach, what they can't fully understand or predict. If you give him complete access to your thoughts and feelings, his brain thinks there's no challenge here and his interest fades. But when you use these 5 words strategically, you create uncertainty and intrigue, and his brain starts craving more interaction with you. Now, here's the key. This isn't about manipulation or playing games. It's about understanding how attraction and longing are built at a subconscious level. The mistake most women make is over-communicating, over-sharing, and that removes the mystery. When you send these 5 words, you're doing the exact opposite. You're giving him just enough emotional information to make his mind race with questions like, what does she mean by that? Why did she say this now? What is she not telling me? And once his curiosity is hooked, he naturally starts chasing the answers, which means he starts missing you. I've seen this work over and over again, no matter the situation, whether it's a guy who's been distant, someone new you're getting to know, or even a boyfriend who's gotten too comfortable. Once you understand this psychology, you'll be able to create genuine longing without begging for attention. And now that you understand why this works, you're ready for the exciting part, because I'm about to reveal the very first word that instantly makes him realize what he's missing when you're not around. All right, here it is. The very first word that can completely change how much he misses you, almost. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can one simple word be so powerful? But here's the secret. The word almost instantly creates an unfinished story in his mind, and the human brain is obsessed with completing unfinished stories. See, when you tell someone you almost did something, you're not giving them the complete picture. You're creating a gap that their imagination has to fill, and that's where the magic happens. His mind automatically begins wondering what you almost did, why you didn't do it, and whether it had anything to do with him. For example, if you send a text like, I almost texted you something crazy at 2 a.m. last night, or I almost drove by that place we tea, ulked about. The moment he reads that, his mind starts racing. What was the crazy thing? Why was she thinking about me at 2 a.m.? What stopped her from saying it? And here's the key. When he creates that picture in his head, when his brain starts working to figure you out, he's not just reading your words anymore. He's emotionally investing in understanding you. This makes him associate that mental energy with you, which makes you more important in his mind. But timing is everything. You don't want to throw this out randomly. Almost works best when there's already some connection built. Maybe you've had some good conversations, maybe he's shown interest, but things feel a little distant or predictable. Dropping a well-timed almost text brings you back to the front of his mind instantly. Here's why it works better than being direct. Men crave stimulation and mystery. If you text, "I was thinking about you," it's nice but predictable. But if you text, "I almost told you what I was really thinking during that conversation," now his brain lights up. His curiosity peaks and he starts leaning in emotionally. You're not forcing him to miss you. You're inviting him to wonder about you. And once he's wondering, he naturally wants more information, more connection, and more of you. But here's the thing. Almost is just the spark that starts the fire. The next word I'm about to reveal doesn't just make him think about you. It makes him feel like you're irreplaceable in a way that's almost impossible for him to resist. Now that you've created curiosity with the first word, it's time to make him feel like what you share is one of a kind. The second word that will make him miss you is never. Sounds simple, right? But this one word has the power to make him feel chosen, special, and irreplaceable in ways he's never felt with anyone else. Here's why. When you say something never happens to you, or you never feel a certain way, you're making him understand that his impact on your life is unique. You're giving him emotional territory that belongs only to him. And men desperately want to feel like they matter in a way that's different from everyone else. For example, you might send a text like, "I never crave Chinese food at midnight, but here we are." Or, "I never pay attention to song lyrics until you mention that one." Do you feel the difference? You're not making grand declarations about love or feelings. You're pointing out small but real ways he's changed your patterns, your awareness, your experiences. Here's the important part. When you use never this way, you're creating what I call emotional ownership. You're showing him that he has influenced your life in ways that no one else has. This makes him feel powerful and important, but also protective of that specialness he's created. Never also works because it gives him social proof. When you tell him something never happens to you or you never feel a certain way, you're implying that you have standards, that your PE positive responses aren't automatic. This makes him feel like he's earned something valuable, something that other guys haven't been able to create. But here's where it gets even better. Never plants seeds of continuation. When he knows he's the only one who makes you notice certain things or feel certain ways, he wants to keep being that person. He doesn't want to lose that special position in your life. So he starts working harder to maintain and expand his unique influence on you. The key is keeping it believable and specific. Don't say, "I never felt this way about anyone," because that sounds overwhelming. Instead, focus on small, real changes. "I never used to like rainy days until you said they were perfect for staying in." These little acknowledgements add up to make him feel like he's genuinely changing your world in positive ways. And when you combine the first word, almost, with never at the right moment, the effect is incredible. He starts feeling both curious about your thoughts and special about his impact on your life. His dopamine spikes, and before he even realizes it, he's thinking about you constantly. But here's where it gets even more powerful. The third word is what takes him from feeling curious and special to feeling emotionally urgent about not losing you. Once you know how to use it, he won't just miss you when you're gone. He'll start planning ways to make sure you don't want to leave. To really understand why these 5 words work so powerfully, you need to know how a man's brain processes missing someone differently than yours. Men and women experience absence for different reasons. For most women, missing someone is about emotional connection. It's about wanting to share feelings, check in, and maintain closeness. But for most men, missing someone is about stimulation and reward. Here's what I mean. When a man realizes you're not available, his brain instantly starts evaluating what he's lost access to. On a subconscious level, he's asking, what am I missing out on? What experiences, what conversations, what feelings am I not getting? If the answer is nothing special, he doesn't miss you. But if the answer is something I can't get anywhere else, that's when the longing kicks in. That's why the right 5 words work like magic. They don't just tell him you're unavailable. They remind him of what he's losing access to. They stimulate his emotional brain, not just his logical one. When you text him things that are predictable or available, there's no sense of loss. His brain processes it as ordinary, and ordinary things aren't missed. But men are wired to seek out what's stimulating and rewarding. When you give him just enough information to remind him of what's special about you, his mind starts calculating what life feels like without that specialness. He begins imagining scenarios, remembering experiences, and emotionally investing in not losing what you bring to his life. Think about it like this. A man's longing is often triggered when he realizes something valuable might not always be there. That could be excitement, mystery, understanding, or even playful challenge. When your absence makes him aware of what he's missing, he starts working to get it back. This is why the words I'm sharing with you are so powerful. They're designed to work. K with his natural psychology, the same system that makes him chase after goals, adventures, and success. Once you understand how his mind creates longing, you'll realize it's not about being unavailable all the time. It's about making sure that when you are unavailable, he's very aware of what he's not getting. And now that you know how his brain processes missing you, we're ready for the 3rd word, the one that makes your absence feel urgent rather than just noticeable. All right, we've reached the part that changes everything. The 3rd word that will make him miss you desperately. Ready? The word is disappearing. Now, I know that sounds simple, but here's the secret. This word doesn't just tell him you're leaving. It creates urgency about your availability and reminds him that access to you is not guaranteed. Here's why disappearing is so psychologically powerful. Most people say they're busy or they have plans, but when you say you're disappearing, you're doing something different. You're choosing to become unreachable. And choice implies control, independence, and mystery, all of which are incredibly attractive to men. For example, you might text, about to disappear into this book for the next few hours, or disappearing from technology tonight. Do you see what's happening here? You're not asking permission, you're not explaining in detail, and you're not apologizing. You're simply informing him that you'll be unreachable, and that creates immediate psychological tension. Here's what happens in his mind. When someone announces they're about to become unavailable, his brain automatically starts wondering what that means for him. Will I miss something important? What if I want to talk to her? What if she's doing something interesting and I can't be part of it? This internal dialogue is exactly what creates the feeling of missing someone before they're even gone. But disappearing works on an even deeper level. It reminds him that you have the confidence and independence to be unreachable. In a world where most people are constantly available, constantly responding, constantly accessible, someone who can disappear becomes automatically more valuable. Scarcity creates desire, and your willingness to be temporarily scarce makes your presence more precious. The word also shows that you have an active, interesting life outside of him. You're not disappearing because you're upset or playing games. You're disappearing because you have experiences to have, things to explore, moments to enjoy. This makes you more attractive because men are naturally drawn to women who have full, independent lives. Here's the key. When you use disappearing, you're not threatening or manipulating. You're just living your life in a way that doesn't revolve around constant availability. And when a man realizes that your attention isn't automatic, he starts valuing the times when he does have it. Timing-wise, disappearing works best when things have been going well, but you sense he's getting too comfortable with your constant accessibility. It's a gentle reminder that you're not guaranteed, that your time is valuable, and that he needs to appreciate what he has access to. And here's the beautiful part. When you do disappear for those hours, you're not just creating mystery. You're actually living an interesting life, having experiences, growing as a person. When you return, you often have new energy, new stories, new perspectives to bring to the connection. You become more attractive because you're actively making yourself more attractive. But we're not done yet, because while the first 3 words create curiosity, specialness, and urgency, the 4th and 5th words are what transform those feelings into genuine emotional need. They're what make missing you feel not just temporary, but necessary for his happiness. The 4th and 5th words that will make him miss you beyond belief are without you. These 2 words together create what I call emotional dependency. You're not just establishing that you enjoy his company. You're connecting specific positive experiences to his presence, which makes his absence feel like something essential is missing from your life. Here's the psychology behind this. When you link good feelings and experiences to someone's presence and then highlight what those experiences lack without you, you make that person feel necessary rather than just wanted. His brain starts to understand that certain pleasures, certain moments of joy, certain experiences are somehow incomplete when he's not part of them. For example, you might text something like, "This playlist hits different without you here to argue about the songs." Or, "Tried that coffee shop, but it's not the same without you complaining about everything." You're not saying you can't function without him, which would be needy and overwhelming. You're saying that certain experiences have more meaning when shared with him and feel noticeably different without him. The power of without you lies in its specificity. You're not making huge, dramatic statements about love or need. You're pointing to concrete, relatable moments where his absence is genuinely felt. This makes the sentiment believable rather than desperate, meaningful rather than manipulative. But here's where it gets really smart. When you use without you correctly, you're also creating a roadmap for him to become more important in your life. Instead of leaving him guessing about how to make you happy, you're showing him specific contexts where his presence adds value. This makes him feel capable and appreciated rather than confused and inadequate. Without you also works because it acknowledges his unique contribution to your happiness. You're not saying all men make experiences better or that any company improves things. You're saying that his specific presence, his particular way of being, creates something that can't be replicated by anyone else. This kind of recognition is incredibly powerful for creating emotional attachment. The timing for without you should be organic and specific. Use it when you genuinely notice his absence in a particular context, when something reminds you of a shared experience, or when you want to reinforce positive memories you've created together. The key is authenticity. If it feels forced or calculated, it loses its power completely. And here's what makes this combination of all 5 words so incredible. Almost creates curiosity about what could be. Never establishes what's unique about your connection. Disappearing creates urgency about your availability. And without you creates necessity about your shared experiences. Together, they paint a picture of someone who is mysterious yet meaningful, independent yet connected, rare yet attainable. But knowing these 5 words isn't enough, because even the most powerful word, DS, can backfire if you make certain crucial mistakes. And in the next part, I'm going to show you the biggest texting mistakes that kill the longing you're trying to create and how to avoid them so these 5 words work like pure magic. Now, before you start using these 5 powerful words, I need to warn you, even the right words won't work if you're making certain texting mistakes. These are the mistakes that silently destroy the missing you're trying to create, push him away, and make it almost impossible for him to long for you, no matter how much potential there was in the beginning. The first big mistake is over-explaining your almost moments. If you text, "I almost called you last night," resist the urge to follow up with why you didn't, what you wanted to say, or how you felt about it. The moment you explain, you kill the curiosity. The power is in the gap, not in the clarification. Let his imagination do the work for you. The second mistake is using never too frequently or making it about dramatic, overwhelming things. If you're constantly telling him you never feel this way or never do that, it starts to sound either fake or intense. Keep your never statements specific, believable, and tied to small but meaningful moments. The goal is to create specialness, not pressure. The third critical error is announcing you're disappearing and then being available anyway. If you say you're disappearing into a book or going offline for a few hours, actually do it. Don't check your phone. Don't respond to texts. Don't break your own boundary. Your word has to mean something, or the technique becomes meaningless manipulation instead of genuine independence. Another huge mistake is using "without you" when you're upset or during arguments. These words should come from a place of appreciation and positive association, not from frustration or neediness. If you're angry and you tell him something isn't the same without him, it sounds like blame rather than genuine missing. Save these words for moments when you're feeling good about your connection. The biggest mistake of all is using these words too often. Their power comes from scarcity and timing. If every conversation contains one of these phrases, they lose their impact entirely. Think of them like seasoning in cooking. A little bit enhances everything, but too much ruins the entire experience. You also want to avoid using multiple power words in the same text thread. Don't send "I almost called you" and then follow up with "this show isn't the same without you" in the same conversation. Space them out. Let each one have its moment to create impact before you introduce another layer. And finally, never use these words when you're feeling desperate or trying to force a specific reaction. The energy behind your words matters as much as the words themselves. If you're texting from a place of neediness, he'll sense it, and even the most perfectly crafted message will feel manipulative rather than genuine. The secret to making these words work is authenticity. Use them when they reflect real feelings and observations, not when you're trying to create feelings that don't exist. Genuine emotion is magnetic. Desperation is repelling. Make sure you understand the difference. Now, you know the 5 powerful words that make him miss you, but here's the thing most people overlook. Creating longing once is good, but making him consistently crave your presence is what changes everything. You have to understand how to maintain the emotional tension that keeps his mind engaged and his invested. Here's the real takeaway. You're not tricking him, manipulating him, or playing games. You're communicating in a way his brain naturally responds to. Men are wired to value what stimulates them emotionally, and when you understand how to create that stimulation naturally, the dynamic shifts without force, without pressure, and without losing your self-worth. Now, here's what I want you to do. Pick just one of these 5 words and try it out in your next conversation. Test it in a genuine low-pressure way and watch how his energy toward you changes. Then come back here and let me know in the comments what happened. I'd love to hear your experiences. And if you found this video valuable, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next video where we'll dive even deeper into the psychology of attraction and give you more secrets to make him think about you constantly. Remember,